Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Milk, Eggs,
and a Whole Lotta T. I'm Allegra.
I'm Brandon.
And we are with the bestie in my head, the culinary expert.
The bestie in your head.
The bestie in my head. I'm sorry, I didn't even ask how you were because I was so excited to get to
That's okay. I'm excited, too, to be talking about Keshia today. Oh, yes. But yes, I am doing good today. Thank you for asking.
Good
yes.
to hear.
It's been a great day. Sun is shining here in Nashville.
Yes.
And we're having a good day.
Yes. You got something in your teacup?
Is it got something in my tea? A little bit of bubbles. Do you got something in your teacup?
Of course. Why not?
Okay. So tell me about our guest today.
Well,
Who is she and what is she about?
Like I said, she's the bestie in my head.
Bestie in your head.
She's a culinary expert.
Culinary expert.
She's the one and only.
The one and only.
The Chef Keshia Hays.
Yeah, Hays.
Hi.
There we go. Look at you,
Hi.
Chef Keshia.
Oh my God.
Oh, we're
That
so excited to
entrance.
have you. We're so excited to
Well,
have
I'm
you.
excited to be here.
I kind of take on
Yes.
friends, so you're the bestie.
Yes. No,
we're besties now.
We can be besties. Absolutely, 100%. No, I love it. Thank y'all for having me.
Of
today.
course.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
Yes, and you look stunning today.
Thank you.
Come
Wearing
on, leopard.
black,
I mean,
the
you know,
hat, the shoes.
I chef in these shoes.
I mean,
up.
listen, should we pull like a Wendy Williams and do a shoe cam or something real quick for you?
Pan down, pan down, pan back up. Yeah, no, I've chefed in these shoes many times.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Not anymore because pregnancy, your feet expand. It's a whole
baby,
thing.
a whole thing. But
So a
you know,
special occasion now where I'll pull my leopards out.
listen, the leopards are leoparding,
Thank
and we love
Yes,
it.
they are.
We love
Absolutely.
it.
I love it.
Absolutely. So, like I said, culinary expert, Chef Keshia. The reason why, you are the person I felt to come on this show, it's because A, you can do what you do, and also it's because there's what I've seen, I haven't seen a lot of Black women as private chef. And I love that we connected through Postmates.
Yep.
And I was like, when you came to my house with this hat on, I was like, oh, who is this beautiful Black queen? Hello. But also the food, it was lamb chops. And I still
Sure
remember to this
was.
day. And
She
they were
cooked
like,
you lamb chops.
dude,
Wait, where was I?
you weren't on my team.
Yeah,
You weren't there.
I guess I wasn't there, but lamb.
They were
I could taste
they were
them.
lamb chop lollipops.
Yep.
Oh,
They were.
that was
wait, a lamb
4
chop
years ago.
lollipop. Hold
Yes.
on, what is
Incredible
that?
memory.
It was good. That's why.
So you take the lamb rack
Yeah.
after you've Frenched the bone. So Frenched, the term is you're taking the fat, some of the skin or whatever off the bone and cleaning it really nice.
Oh my God.
And then slicing them down after I've seared it, spiced it, seared it, let it
Yes.
rest. Very important. And then cut them. And, depending on how much meat is on the lamb rack, it can be as small or, whatever. But it looks like it's just meat on a stick, meat on the bone. But,
Meat on the bone,
Yeah.
and that's what's called.
but it's like a little lollipop. It looks like a little lollipop.
yeah.
You're making my mouth.
I don't know what all that means.
No, not at all. But it looks.
All
It
that.
sounds amazing.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Chef Keshia. I'm gonna call you Chef Keshia. Oh no.
I'll take that.
Chef
you.
Keshia. I mean,
You
you
work for
deserve
that
the
title.
the title.
I
yeah.
have.
So Chef Keshia, I love to know people's stories. I see you on Instagram on one of your followers. Hello. But I like to know how you got started. Because a lot of times we see when people make it, but we don't know how your journey was.
What it took to get there.
So
Yeah.
take us through your journey of how did you become the culinary expert?
Oh my goodness. Well, one, I appreciate you and the chef title because it is definitely one that it's an earned thing. I know sometimes people just call themselves chef and it's like I don't know why you.
I'm making something that ain't something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I
That's me.
don't know. I guess when I was, it always, I feel starts at childhood. I've always loved food, had a fascination with food. And just kind of watching my grandmother, my mom's mom, she was the baker. My dad, he cooked. And so it was just always kind of in the background as far as family gatherings, having dinners, big holiday, get-togethers. And my grandmother would make yeast rolls from scratch, and that was the thing. And the tradition was to always, wasn't like it was on purpose, but she would burn a pan of rolls because she'd be so busy doing other things that were like, that is tradition, because once that first round goes, then everything else after that is totally fine.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. But I just always just loved food. But then really my background was in art. And so I was one of those very ambitious children that was drawing and painting. I taught myself how to sew. And the same thing with, with cooking. So I would make like random things that I had no business trying to put together, but I did. And I want to say, kind of fast forward, 4th grade, I met my best friend over Lisa Frank stickers. The best.
I love Lisa Frank stickers. Just side note, I love Lisa Frank.
Best.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll come back one day with some new line for adults.
Lisa Frank, that's your cue.
Hey, I'm just saying. But she and I, like, we just kindred spirits. Like after school, I would go to her house, and we would just start pulling things out of the pantry, just trying to, make after school snacks. And I remember one day we were trying to make pizza. We had no dough, no sauce, so we used flour tortillas. We went through her.
Lunchables.
Flour, exactly. Flour tortillas, canned tomato paste. And then we just went through the spice cabinet and just started smelling all the spices. And we're like, all right, this smells like pizza.
So could you read them, or was it more
some of them were like kind of faded. Other things we could read. But I think because I didn't really know the base of what your traditional like pizza sauce was,
100%.
we were just kind of going by our taste memory. Again, in 4th grade. So we were just like, also like, let's just pull all the things out.
Not the science guy.
Exactly. And so that's kind of where I like really started experimenting. But again, it played a back fiddle, because my trajectory of what I thought I was going to do was fashion design, because I was also drawing, sketching, sewing Barbie clothes, at the same time as I was playing Martha Stewart in my room. So it was all just kind of like happening all around the same time. Fast forward, getting, in high school, I would entertain friends at home, and I wasn't really like doing from scratch things. I just really love to entertain and host. And I started slowly kind of dabbling into just making things for myself. When I got into college, I went to design school, and again, I'm just thinking to myself, like, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to show at New York Fashion Week. I'm going to intern for Kimora Lee Simmons and just like...
What was it, Baby Fat?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like a big Baby Fat fan.
Jumpsuits?
Yes, yes. And at the same time while I was in college, I was like, well, I need to... I've been in the industry, I should say, since I was 15. My dad had a restaurant. It's my dad,
Really?
uncle, and my cousin. Yes. So right off Jefferson Street used to be Knockout Wings. They've since closed.
Wait, are you born and bred in Nashville?
Wait, born and bred here in Nashville?
Born
No,
bred.
ma'am.
Baptist Hospital.
Wait, so where was it again?
So it was on Jefferson Street. It started off as Buffalo Express, and then they went across the street and they became Knockout Wings, and they were there for about 15 years.
When did they close?
2020.
That's
so
right, because
yeah,
it was Knockout.
because
Yes,
the tornado
it was.
happened.
Yeah.
You are so right.
Yep.
I remember
Yep.
So is this
that.
a
Yes.
generational of like cooks
just
or
cooks, chefs? There's beauticians in my family, teachers in my family, but lots of entrepreneurs.
that's what's
Oh,
up?
man.
And so it's just kind of like always been in my blood of like,
Yeah.
I can't work for other people. I need to be
No,
able to work
ma'am.
for myself.
Yeah.
So in college, I picked up a bartending job at a country club and was there for about 5.5 years. And that's really what like re-sparked that in me of, okay, I really love food. I love to cook. I'm still kind of teaching myself through the ways because that's how I learned. I did not go to culinary school. And just doing at the time, my dear friend, David Lipford, he was one of the bar managers, and he was really into making his own simple syrups and bitters. So that got me experimenting. I'm like, well, we're doing this with cocktails. Obviously, I can do this with food.
Yeah.
I was also having my like mid-college crisis of like, is this really what I want to do?
Yeah.
And just asking the universe for a sign.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I graduated. We got to go to France. And I feel like this is everyone's story, but I went to France and it changed my life because it did.
It's amazing now.
And I had not looked back as like, fashion will always be a part of what I do,
Yeah.
but not at the forefront. And just being able to feed people and cook and just be able to be creative. Like I was like, okay, I think I can do something with this.
So that's your love
That's what's
language
up.
is giving food, giving that warmth to people.
Exactly.
Just,
Exactly.
oh,
Yeah.
gosh, I could just taste your home cooking right now. I could just taste it.
Trust me, it was delicious.
Yeah, I bet it was with that
Those
lamb
lollipops.
lollipop. I know. I want
good.
one. Next
Okay.
time we have you in studio, you're going to have to bring some.
Yes, I
do.
will. I will do that. I will make sure to do that.
So it sounds like it was a generational of like entrepreneurship, cooks, beauticians, artists.
Yes.
So then brought up to sip. Well, question for you.
Yes.
Because you started Sip and Bite.
Yes.
So when you're starting your company, you know, there's that ugly head of like imposter syndrome. And then also, is there many like, did you see many Black women chefs
So
like starting off or
honestly,
on this journey?
at the time, you know, I did not see as many in the like the very niche space. I mean, obviously, Black women in the kitchen has been since
Generational.
forever,
and a
right? But like being at the forefront of it, you didn't really see a lot of actual, you know. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Examples, not many. There are a few that I can name off the top. Tiffany Derry, she's based out of Texas. She was on Top Chef. That was really big. Just to be able to see her. Carla Hall, who's from here in Nashville. But like, you know, kind of going even further back, you have Edna Lewis. You have even Maya Angelou wrote a cookbook, but it wasn't like a lot of like. Oh,
Wait, say what?
Maya Angelou.
I did not know that.
Yes,
What-
she
Neither
did.
did I.
What did she write
I
about?
have
What did
it.
she?
I think a lot of the recipes are just kind of more like on the southern end.
Oh, wow.
You know, we love some Southern
it's
cooking.
beautiful. But you know, not as many examples. And honestly, it wasn't until I want to say 2012. And it was a podcast that it was Cherry Bomb, Radio Cherry Bomb, and she was actually interviewing a young Black female chef, and I believe she was also private. And I'm listening to her story, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not the only one that wants to be able to do this. Like, and just hearing her story was so inspiring. I cannot remember right this second her name, but I just like remember turning the podcast off and feeling so like motivated to like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Because, you know, traditionally the culinary, especially when you're talking about in like the high regards of chefs, it's predominantly white male dominated. And so everyone else kind of plays a back fiddle. And so it's a lot to be able to push yourself up to the front. For me, I decided to go private versus being in a restaurant. One, I don't like the idea of being confined within four walls. I appreciate restaurants.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that they have to kind of, you're having to compromise a lot of your vision. One, if you have, you know, people, when you're in a restaurant group, sometimes their investors want a particular thing and you might want a particular thing. And so it doesn't always mesh. For me, I'm a butterfly. I like to be able to like bounce from client to client and just work and do different types of jobs and different types of cuisines. So you don't always have the freedom to do that. Now you can a little bit. But again, just like knowing that this was like super, super like niche at the time. And that was around the same time that I had established the name Sip and Bite. I love like small things. I love tapas. I love to be able to like share and like enjoy little
Have
things.
a little
Then
bite of this,
exactly
bite of that.
like one of my biggest things, I love going to baby showers because they would always have like little samples of things.
And they always give you a gift too. Once you go.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
But I just love to be able to try a bunch of different things without feeling the pressure of it being on one big plate. And I kind of feel like little moments in life kind of like got me to this point. Like a high tea, my very first high tea and tasting menu was with my best friend at 15. I visited her in California and was able to have those experiences. So
Incredible.
That's what's up. And that's when you started Sip and Bite.
yeah, Sip and Bite was in 2012. And it started off like very, very small, like very part-time. Let me bake you a dozen cupcakes. Oh, I'm making these French madeleines, like, and just slowly trying to incorporate,
build relationships.
Exactly.
And meet people
and because I could do sweet and savory, and also coming from a mixologist background as well, I was like, I can merge all of this together and help you for your cocktail parties or garden parties, things like that.
So needless to say, this was like a journey, a learning. You're always learning throughout.
Oh, yes.
Once you establish your business.
Yep.
And with that, sorry to interrupt
No,
too,
go
because
ahead.
I'm sure you were, but my mind just got one, and yours is probably two.
Yeah.
But you were talking about Sip and Bite, and what made you really rebrand to who you are now and what you're doing now?
Yep.
Because we were watching clips of you, of course, just doing our homework.
Yeah.
Because we're
doing all
Gail
that good
King
stuff.
and Joy Reid. That's
I mean,
why.
of course, but also too, like, just learning new things. And like, a big part of the video that you had was you did a whole like rebranding live, kind of
you
like
did.
Instagram live.
Yep.
You were talking about it. You had bubblies on it. It was great. So like, tell
for
us a
you.
little bit about kind of, taking Sip and Bite to that next level of now what you're doing.
Yeah, so I will say a big proponent of me kind of really going through the decision to rebrand it. I want to say stemming back to 2020. So 2019 is when I had actually gone full time. I took the leap. I quit my job.
How
I was done.
Did you have fear of quitting your
I was
job?
terrified. And I'm
Did you have
glad that- yes.
imposter syndrome?
I definitely had imposter syndrome because it was one of the things I had, I wasn't fully reliant on just private chefing. I had other jobs.
Yeah.
I've worked in,
gotcha.
other realms of, culinary spaces, retail, all these things. And that final like decision to leave was definitely one out of fear, but I use it as motivation.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting that you said fear because I had attended my mentor, Sophia, with Projet Chocolat.
Say it one more time.
Projet Chocolat.
Roger Chocolat. I like
she
that.
actually
I do too.
she took me to a book reading with Sean Esquinozi. He's also a chocolate maker, and he wrote a book about fear. And it was literally the night before I handed in my resignation.
No way.
And that was like my final
that was your
push.
sign,
It was
too.
my
Yeah, that was like
exactly.
confirmation.
Yep, I went to work 5:00 in the morning. Got set up.
Wait, pause. You said,
Wait, hold on.
did you hear that?
You're making me hot. You went to bed you went
said-
to work
I
at
went
5
to
a.m.?
work at 5:30 in the
Baby,
morning.
What's
Mary
open
and
at
Joseph
5
ain't up at that
a.m.?
time. What are you doing?
I was working. Are
you getting hot? Are you feeling it?
Yes, because I'm hot. I'm sweating. 5 a.m. is just not. You don't do that.
Oh,
That's against God.
Yeah, listen, I was like in my mind because I was still like, okay, I think I can do this, and I got
Did you have your resignation just like
opened.
typed and ready to hand in?
Oh my gosh.
It's 5 a.m.
did
in the
I
morning.
write
Like, well,
it?
she can't think.
I honestly
She's
don't
still
even
on
remember.
her first coffee
All
trying
I
to
know
get
is
away.
I had my paper. Here's my PTO time. I need to cash out.
Yep.
Baby,
I had
don't
all of
forget
that
the
ready
cash.
to go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
by 7:15 before the place opened, I handed it to my boss and I said, and I shook his hand and I said, you know what? Thank you. I'm done. This is done. And I left. And I went
Cheers
to the coffee
that.
shop. Yeah,
Absolutely.
cheers.
Cheers.
To
That's
that.
awesome.
And then I sat in the window and contemplated life for about an hour because I was like,
As you
what
do.
did I just do?
Yeah.
Put together a bunch of resumes thinking in my mind, like, oh shit, like, am I ready for this?
Yeah.
And everything, the universe was just like, yes, yeah, you're right. No, we're not going to let you have that job. No, you can't have that job. At the time, I was also preparing for a client event. Again, I think it was like a baby shower. And it was that Wednesday following. So this was on a Friday. That following Wednesday, I'm in Trader Joe's shopping, just kind of like, what am I going to do? No one's calling me back. And who I will always dub as my very first client when I went full time. She called, asked me if I would be interested in doing some events for her. And she was like, actually, are you free tomorrow to do? I'm like, actually,
yes.
I am.
I have
and it
time.
just kind of went off from there. So then 2020 happened, landed me at my year of, having full time. And then we went right into COVID. And I immediately had to figure out, like, how does one pivot from here?
Yeah.
How does one expand on what you're already doing?
Yeah.
Did you have like an outline, or you were just making this shit up as
absolutely
you go?
not. It was make it up as I go. I had a lot of
Yeah.
encouragement from my partner Ian, my friend Rhonda, you know, we were all kind of like in the shits at the same time.
Yeah.
And because what I do is requires me to be in people's spaces.
Right.
You know, it was, well, you can't do that right now. We don't know for how long.
Yeah.
So how then do you create something out of chaos? And I started my virtual supper club from that. And I was doing virtual cooking classes. I was, and that's how you and I met through Postmates. And I was also, you know, trying to think of other ways because again, I will say this, having a mentor is so important.
Absolutely.
With whatever it is that you do, because sometimes most of the time they see things that you don't see, or they help you just establish some vision. And she sat me down, we went over my business plan, and she said, Keshia, you need to be able to like have other things because you can't be in everyone's spaces regardless of COVID happening or whatever.
Yeah.
So then that's when I had reached out to a girlfriend of mine who's a candle maker, Dallas, with Tough Peach Co. And I was also making these spice blends. So I'm trying to like establish products. And I called her and I was like, how crazy would it be if I sent you some spice blends that you could make candles that correlate with said spice blend? She's like, done.
Dang.
So we did that. That was like the first test. And then as things started opening back up slowly, like a lot of the restaurants are still trying to recover. One of my girlfriends who owns Malia Wager, she opened up her space to me to be able to do my first restaurant takeover on I wouldn't even say the tail end of COVID, but in the fall. Yeah. And that first pop-up was called Botanique. And so that's where it comes from first.
So this is where you're rebranding.
So it's kind of where I'm kind of dropping the jewel a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you've seen on my feed, but most all of my food has some botanical something, whether it's edible flowers, lots of herbs. If it's not an edible flower, there's just flowers everywhere. That's just what I love. I feel like I have lavender and rose in my veins and my blood.
I mean, you even brought us a gift with flowers in it, which was so sweet. Yeah.
That's just my thing. And so, you know, over time, with knowing that I had these candles, having the spice blends, knowing my love for flowers, you know, before it became a thing, because now the edible flowers, it's a trend. And I'm like, y'all, it's not a trend. People have been cooking with edible flowers for centuries.
Forever. It just became people realizing in it, maybe.
Yeah.
And so botanique means botanical in French. A lot of the applications that I do with food are French techniques, a lot of French cuisines. But I also like to try and, you know, I definitely dabble in other styles. But what is the thread are the botanicals that I use. And so after having my son, you know, we got pregnant unexpectedly, but we embraced it. And it was one of those things I said, okay, I need to be able to really like dig into what does it look like chefing from this point on, because I can't be now in everyone's space. And I need to be able to have some presence in some kind of way that's still expressive of me.
Yeah.
So question for you. So how were you able to show up as yourself? Doing this rebranding as a mama, have a partner, you have your, you know, the culinary expert, but you're also you as well.
As a badass woman.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know, I will be honest, I struggled a lot. And I feel like dealing with postpartum really kind of like put something in my mind of, I really like, now is the time to really start, because I felt very enclosed, like I didn't really take a maternity leave. Especially,
that's right, because you're an entrepreneur and
working for myself. I mean, like, I know I can control my schedule, but I also need to be able to get paid. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, dealing with postpartum, I struggled a lot with being like creativity, feeling left behind, feeling like people are going to forget about me. I'm not able to just like have the energy to get up and go. I'm breastfeeding. I'm, you know, we're home. And for me, showing up in all of those spaces, it was just accepting something that I was not ready to accept, which was, I don't have to do it all at once right now. It's okay. Take your time. So that's really where the seed that I planted 2 years ago really started to root and take take ground. And I think with the encouragement of like my best friends, my partner, of like, you can do this on your own terms.
Right.
And when I started to accept that I can't do it all in this space, but I can do things in my own terms, then that's when it really started to present itself to say, okay, it's time. And
That's what's up.
And it's time to do a whole upheaval of what
Tear it all down.
used to be. And it was scary. I mean, I had Sip and Bite for almost 12 years.
Yeah. And then
or 12, 14 years. I don't know.
It's like peeling back those layers, but putting new spackle on too. And
Exactly.
just
Refreshing
Yeah.
it and just showing, it's like, especially being a mother in that space, because it's still very like, you don't really, I mean, I feel like it's embraced a lot more now, but like we're expected to stay home.
Yeah.
And perhaps, pause your career. And I was just not ever that person. I did not want to be. I mean, all respect to the women who do decide, and that is their choice. But that's the word, is the choice.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to just figure out, how do I make this work for me and not the other way around?
If I could get up right now and give you a hug, I would, because that's awesome.
Thank you.
I mean, that just shows where your head was at, where you were going, like, your path and everything like that, which is incredible. I mean, listen, I mean, I know people that can't do the things that you've done.
Absolutely.
In places, of that. And it's, I believe a lot of it is, your own will and your own choice and your own, having those people in your corners, your mentors, things like that, learning from your experience, to grow to where you're at.
Exactly.
And that's incredible. Yeah. That's awesome.
And just being that example to my son.
Oh, yeah.
Of like, mommy can be in this space and can also occupy another space, but I'm human.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to be perfect at either.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that he can do whatever he sets his mind to, whatever he wants. If he wants to go to college, if he wants to go abroad, whatever, I don't care. I want you to just be happy with what you're doing and be passionate.
That's amazing.
Switching gears, I do have a question. So when you get done making whatever you're making, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever like sit back, just take a step back and be like, you know what? I did this shit. I did that shit. I did that chicken.
Listen, there are definitely times where I'm just like, I feel really good about like, okay, I've like plated it up, made it look really nice. I mean, my partner recognized that in me very quickly when we started dating. He's like, you don't do anything just regular.
Oh, no, that's right.
No.
We can't
I'm
do
like,
regular.
no.
And that's fine.
And that's okay.
That's not part of our ministry.
Get out of being vanilla like that. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we
No
love
vanilla.
No vanilla over here either. I might look it, but I ain't. Okay.
You do look it.
But I ain't. Okay.
Hey, vanilla is a botanical. It is
but
a botanical,
but not in this botanical garden. No, ma'am.
No. But I do, like, whenever I plate for clients, I do the same thing at home. There are definitely times.
Wait. You do the same thing at home?
I will plate for us at home because it's like,
it's just part of who
I
you
just
are.
love
Practice.
doing it.
Yeah, like what you love.
It's practice, but and then I also have had many doozies.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
This didn't work out. But that's okay.
That's okay. So it's kind of like shit may not work out.
Yes. But
Have you ever tasted something like, this ain't tasting what I thought it would?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And it has definitely, it humbles you. If you're not in the space where you keep learning and what you're doing, then you need to stop, because then you have no more drive for it.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm continuing, like, I thrive off of criticism as long as it's constructive and not out of being like catty or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a challenge to how can I make it better the next time?
Yeah.
So you recently sent us a video. We're going to share it with everyone.
Yes.
And you made some chicken. I don't cook. I don't know how to cook. I don't know what that is. It's like the texture for me. It's just like.
For real, girl. Get a grill.
I can't.
Get a grill.
So can you
No, I'm just
explain
kidding.
what you did?
Yes.
And with that, what you made, is it simple for people? I don't cook. Maybe Brandon will cook for his man.
Oh, I'll definitely cook for
Can
me.
you explain like what it is?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So pretty much what I did. And what I tend to do a lot of my proteins, whether it's for clients or at home, I always brine my meat.
Okay.
And so a brine traditionally, you can do either a dry or a wet brine. And I prefer dry brine just because I feel like I get more flavor out of it, but it's equal parts salt and sugar. You can use Diamond Kosher sugar, sea salt. I don't do iodized anything. And then either cane sugar or brown sugar, just kind of depends. And so I had done a brine, but I had also...
What is a brine?
So what it is it's almost kind of like a tenderizer of sorts, but it also helps your protein, your meat retain moisture.
Okay.
So with the dry brine, when you pack it on, which is what I was doing with the chicken and you kind of pack it on, you let it rest. It can rest in the fridge overnight, depending on how much time you have for prep. Or if you've got at least 30 minutes, I always say just do it because you'll never regret it. But it's almost like a fail safe to dry meat. And I feel like especially with chicken, people are very intimidated because they're afraid of undercooking.
It is, yeah. It's scary.
And they're also afraid of overcooking because you can't turn back from that.
No, you can't.
And so what the brine does, and I am not a scientist, so I'm not going to give you scientist terms.
But you a chef, so that's good enough.
She's a chef.
So, what it's doing is it is drawing out moisture and helping it go back in. So it's helping to draw out the natural juices from the chicken or the beef or the pork, and then it helps to seal it back in. The salt helps create a nice crust, and the sugar gives it like some really nice caramelization once it's roasted off. Restaurant trick. And so with my brine that I had done, actually I incorporated one of my spice blends, so lavender pepper that I do and that I sell. Hello. And
She sells lavender pepper.
I do. I make it.
Wait, you make lavender pepper?
So I make all my own blends. So I have a lavender pepper, a Rosa Lepo salt, and I just introduced my brine, which also has juniper berries and smoked tea.
Oh
smoked
my
lapsang
Lord.
tea
That
to give it some smoky.
And where can we
note
buy
without-
this from?
Off of my website. It will be up.
We'll have a link in our
in
bio,
April.
y'all.
Absolutely.
But I like to just sprinkle generously on the chicken. I had spatchcocked it. That means you take the backbone out and then you fold it, like almost like butterfly it out, press it down, and it helps it cook evenly versus if the legs or the breasts are tucked under, you kind of have to zhuzh it around a little bit. I don't want to do all that. So I spatchcock it, brine it, let it sit for 30 minutes. After it sat, I brushed it with some Dijon mustard and I poured melted butter over top. Just because,
I'm so
why
hungry.
not? I mean,
Just make it cute. So,
exactly.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no.
So for a single lady like myself, that doesn't seem like a meal that I can cook.
She
can
wants
do
that
this.
Chick-fil-A drive-through.
You can do this.
So what would you suggest?
I would suggest
As
starting
like a-
small.
Okay, so let's just
Starting
set the
small.
scene.
Yeah. So,
First day.
We talking spaghetti? We talking more like...
well, are you just saying
Not
like a
about-
meal in general? Or maybe like this, something you could do like a roast chicken, but it's not the whole thing.
Something I don't have to do to wash dishes, and like you can come over and drop
baby,
it off,
everything you got to do to
and
wash
I will
dishes.
hide the dishes.
You can't just throw them away.
So
Keisha gonna come handle that.
Yeah, Keisha.
does home deliveries, people.
I do home
She
delivery.
does.
I
You
care
do.
Keisha gonna
packages.
come.
But
Okay,
when you are doing it at home,
Okay.
I highly encourage, because this is how I essentially learned how to also shop for different quantities when I was shopping for myself in college and cooking for myself.
You cook for yourself in college?
Yes.
You have to. You got to survive.
Yes, I live with
Allegra,
my
what'd you do?
grandmother.
I went to the cab.
Baby, no, you got to have some fresh
See,
nutrients.
our college didn't have that. It was private. We had to go off campus for everything.
Oh, so you had to
Okay.
cook.
Yeah, we didn't have a
You
choice.
had to cook.
But I would say for something like this, go to the meat department in Whole Foods or whatever. Get a single, if you can find a single like chicken leg or chicken breast. It takes literally no time. Brine it, let it 30 minutes. Oven temp 400 to start. Put the chicken in there. Olive oil first, and then put the chicken in there, and then give it 10 minutes, knock it down to 375, about 20 minutes, depending on if it has a bone or not. That just tends to take a little bit longer, but it's so easy. I promise you.
Okay.
You won't get the ick because you won't have to touch it as much.
Okay.
So, wow. So she won't get the ick. But, okay, last thing. Here's the last thing for this episode that we want you to give our audience before we wrap up.
Yes.
What is one piece of advice
That's a good one.
/ something that you could give the viewers at home? What would you say to them on anything, whether it's starting your business, whether it's cooking for your partner, whether it's, falling in love with culinary, whatever that might be? What is that one thing that we can leave our viewers with?
I'm a big, big, big proponent in intuition. Follow that.
Follow your intuition.
Follow your gut. I mean, it will not, if something does not feel right, it's not ever going to be right. If you are in a job and you're like, oh, but it makes me a lot of money. I mean, like, money is great. We love money. We want to keep that flowing, right?
Yeah.
But if you dread having to wake up every day and going into that space and you just feel like you're not being creatively or emotionally or motivated, like stimulated in that sense, if your gut is saying you need to go, and it's okay, just trust that things are going to be okay. That would probably be one of my biggest, above all, do that. Obviously in some cases, if you can plan, but the universe does not always allow for plans A, B, or C.
Mother Nature likes to throw a curveball.
Yes, they do.
Yes, she does.
And so it's
That's right. She does.
She does.
intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound like you truly love what you do and value of that's what you mentioned, Brandon, like her love language.
Yeah. That your love is food and just being with people.
Exactly.
God, well, thank you so much, Keshia, for being here today. We really appreciate you. Yeah, thank you. I mean, Allegra, is there anything you want to conclude from this episode?
One more question.
Yes.
Okay.
Reddit questions.
One more.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah.
Let's say if your person can't cook, but they think they can cook, and you try to give them direction, and they still ain't taking your direction. So what do you do if your person can't take their direction when they can't cook?
You just try to find some really good takeout. Because if they're not listening, that's kind of like another red flag for another podcast.
Yeah.
That's another episode.
So it's just like, you know what, honey, you can't do it tonight.
No encouragement.
I mean, yes, be encouraging.
Are you the cook at home?
Both my partner and I cook. I cook primarily. He has his staples. He has his go-tos. But if it's one of those, they're just not willing to take the criticism.
Yeah.
Then
Order takeout.
Order takeout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Order takeout. Encourage them.
Which is always good. Hey, baby, let's put on a movie and order takeout. Yeah.
Maybe
it's okay.
we both have expunged a lot of energy and we can let somebody else do it. Me, hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do it.
No experiment.
I do date night, so just saying.
Keisha does date night. She will show up at your house.
Yes, she
And she
will.
shows up on time.
Yes, I do.
On
Yeah.
time.
I don't play about
So
that.
we can plate everything, hide the dishes, and we're like,
Yes.
hello, how are you? Come on in.
Remember the scene in, what was it, Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yes.
When he's like taking all the stuff. He's like, throw it in the trash. I made this beautiful meal.
Yes.
I can be your Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh my
Whatever you
God.
need.
I will definitely need you as my Mrs.
There you go.
Doubtfire.
I'll take it.
Cheers. Where's my cup?
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening on this episode of Milk Eggs.
And a whole lot of tea.
All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.